Hello and welcome, all you Cinepickers, to Cine-Picks. This is a show where we take turns picking movies for each other to watch that one of us hasn't watched previously. This is Michaela, and I'm Kevin. And today, Michaela picked a movie for me to watch. Michaela, what was your Cinepick for this week?
Yes. So my Cine-Pick for you is another one of Disney's finest films. It is the follow-up to, hang on, can I like re-record that?
Yeah, go
Because
for
it's not one of Disney's finest films.
it.
So Kevin, my Cine-Pick for you this week is the follow-up to one of Disney's finest films, Frozen. It is the sequel, Frozen 2.
Ah,
And I picked this
yes.
for you because you told me in the past that you really, really enjoyed Frozen. And you said, but I know that there's a sequel and I haven't seen it. I'm like, well, it is about time because
Yeah,
I have seen the sequel and I have many, many thoughts about it. I am very conflicted and torn. But my
yeah.
question for you is, if you could summarize the film unobjectively,
Mm-hmm.
how would you do it?
Okay. Well, Frozen 2 picks up not long after the first Frozen movie, or at least that's what it seems like. And there are,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, there's even a whole scene where Olaf decides he's going to reenact the entire first film because somebody asks, what happened? Why did we get here? And he's like, this is what happened. And he stops at the end of the last movie. And so you assume that this one picks up right after that. So, anyway, so right after the original film, we have Kristoff wants to propose to Anna, and there's a flashback where you see there's a mystic forest that nobody talked about previously, but apparently it's like right next to the city, like not even like it's within the kingdom next to the city. Anyways, nobody knows about it except for now. It's all of a sudden super important. Um, yeah, but the Mystic Forest conceals the secrets to Arendelle's past as well as Elsa's origins of Elsa's powers and also her parents and blah blah blah. And this is just a journey to explore what's going on in Arendelle. What's the deal with Elsa? And that is Frozen 2. So there
Yeah,
you go.
I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah,
Um,
it's I
the
found it was.
I think it's more Elsa centered,
Hmm.
but like there's like little subdivisions,
Yeah, and it
and
was
then there's
definitely
a
it's
kind of a twist in the
yeah.
third act.
Well, yeah, it's Elsa centered, but it's also like it's Elsa Anna centered. I wrote here halfway through the movie, Kristoff disappeared, and I was like, "Where's Kristoff? I haven't
I
seen him.
wrote that
I
too.
haven't seen him for like 45 minutes. What like Kristoff is completely unimportant to the scene. He wants to propose to Anna, but that's not really important to the movie at all, to the story.
Right?
It's just
I
like
was conflicted
that's
about
literally all
Kristoff.
Kristoff has to do. Like that's his goal, the only thing he can accomplish, and the only thing he could really help with. No, he that's not even helpful. It's just a thing that he does. He's going to propose to Anna. It's the only way they could fit him into the movie. That's about it. But apparently
My
that's not
like
important enough.
my question about this film is the fact that it is Frozen 2.
Hmm.
It doesn't have a subtitle or like a subheading.
Yeah.
It clearly states it is Frozen 2, which means it should be a direct sequel
Yeah.
where we explore other themes that we didn't get to in the first
Hmm.
movie. And I feel like, yeah, we definitely explored stuff, but are my answers really answered? And did the
Yeah.
characters actually change? Because I don't think they really like
Uh,
did. I
that's
couldn't
also very
understand.
interesting. When they go into the Mystic Forest, Olaf, he has this little line where he's like, the Mystic Forest has transformative powers. I'm excited to see what it does to us. And so you expect the characters to transform in some way, right? But there's not like I mean they get answers to their questions. What happened to their parents? Oh, what happened to the Mystic Forest? Why is the Mystic Forest like this? Why is there barrier around the Mystic Forest? What's so mysterious? So all
Yeah.
those questions are answered. But do the characters actually really grow? I don't know. Not. I mean, their
Yeah.
situations are different. They understand their roles as the queens and the leaders of Arendelle, and so they understand like where they fit in better, especially Elsa, because Elsa is still kind of an outsider, even though now she's been accepted and she accepts her
I
own
don't.
powers and it's all good, it's all out in the open, but she's still kind of an outsider. By the end of the movie, she finds out, where does she fit in all this, and she actually has a home, yeah, by the end of the movie. But
I didn't
yeah,
get that though, because
yeah,
it's like I feel like we went through the same thing in the second one that we did in the first one, where it was
yeah,
like Elsa's not feeling like she belongs again.
yeah.
And
Well,
then so Anna feels bad and is like, I want you to feel accepted and welcome, but I can't help you if you don't tell me things.
mm-hmm.
And Elsa's like, but I'm just too different and you can't tag along. And Anna's like, but you need to tell me these things.
Yeah.
And once again, you're not telling me things that you should be telling me. I feel like the first problem is it's a communication problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that like it starts with like Elsa hearing this disembodied voice that's calling her from the forest,
Yeah.
and she's like, I don't know what this is, I have to go and explore it, but she doesn't tell anybody about it, which further solidifies her stance, her like idea that she's an outsider in her own kingdom. But it's
Yeah.
like the first movie solidified that she's no longer really an out, she has powers, like
Yeah.
she
But
has powers, but she's not really an outsider because everybody accepts her. Like she
mhm.
doesn't have anybody. And you know what? At the end of the second film, she still doesn't have another person to relate to who also has the powers.
Yeah,
So
well, she's got her horse, she's got her spirits, and she's amongst people who lived with magic. Anyway, but so I feel like the
yeah,
first movie's more of like a coming out story. You know, she's had this secret she's been trying to keep from her family and from everybody in her kingdom, and it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. And so I feel like the first movie's like a coming out story, and so she's happy, and everybody, she finds everybody's accepting of her and her powers and everything, and that's great. But she's still kind of an outsider in like nobody can really relate to her. She has trouble like finding people to really talk to. Like even Anna, like Anna loves her and accepts her, but doesn't really understand what she's going through or what she went through. They can't really relate on that level. And
yeah,
so now this movie is where she finds that group that can relate to her more, and she has these other magic spirits, the water spirits and the wind spirits, and now
the
and she and
elements.
yeah,
Yeah,
the elements, and she's amongst a group of people who have lived with these spirits and have lived with magic, and understand magic and everything. So I feel like, and that's where she winds up at the end. And then Anna runs Arendelle. She's now the leader of Arendelle while she's with these other people. And so, but they're all within the same kingdom, and so they're able. And that was an issue with the original thing with her grandfather, who they were going to go a establish some sort of treaty deal with these other people, uh, but you know, spoiler alert, he actually wanted to. Uh, he He seemed like he was afraid of their magical abilities. So instead of actually like a treaty deal, he was tricking them so that way he can more easily control them by killing their leader.
yeah,
Which angered the spirits and caused all these issues to begin with. And
yeah.
now,
There's just so many
yeah,
moving entities.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
now Elsa is that bridge between the magical people uh and Arendelle, which is actually, so. Here's something interesting: the magical people. I there was an interesting, because so Disney recently seems like they've been really interested in representation in their films. With Coco with Mexican representation, and Moana with the Polynesian representation, and Mulan, and now there's another movie, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like the African American representation. Anyways, they're really interesting. So I was thinking, like, it's interesting with Frozen, like, what sort of representation are they doing? But so the magical people, I can't remember what they're called, because they're not actually magical. They just
The
know.
Northula, I think. The
Yeah,
Northula people
right.
is what they call them
That's
in
what
the
they call
film, I
them.
think.
Yeah. So because I decided to do a little bit of research on Norway because I don't know very much about Norway, and then I was thinking, who are the indigenous people of Norway? Is there like an established indigenous group in Norway? And there is. It's the Sami people. And the Sami people are the actual indigenous people in Norway. They're Norway, Finland, and I don't know, that kind of area. They but anyways,
Really?
but there is an actual indigenous group there. And
Wait,
these
pause,
yeah.
pause. Because the Sami people were also mentioned in our last film, Rare Exports,
Yeah.
and that they're actually indigenous to that specific mountain area
Mhm.
of Finland. That's
Yeah.
why I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, interesting, huh? So and so
Really?
uh So here's the thing. When I was looking at, I was like, so what do the Sami people look like? I was looking at pictures of the Sami people. They look exactly like the people in Frozen. The same, the same like facial structures, also down to the clothes that they wear. It's the same. So I'm pretty sure that's who those people are supposed to be in Frozen, which is interesting because these are the people. They're kind of mysterious. They've been there forever. They're like one with the spirits, with the element spirits, and well, all that stuff. And so, yeah, it's like interesting they have that sort of representation here, but also we have this bridge, this cooperation between the two, uh, like the kingdom and the forest people, and
So
so
yeah,
that's
it got
interesting.
very I love when Disney tries to tackle colonialism
Hmm.
in its its films
Yeah.
because it either hits it's because I always get the point that they're trying to make, but sometimes they really drill it in. Like
Hmm.
they make it very, it's like, wow, that was not subtle. But I
Right.
mean, I appreciate the fact that they're bringing light
Hmm.
to another culture and that they're treating it at least with some amount of dignity and respect. I didn't feel like they were like weirdly too stereotypical, but also we didn't really get to see a lot of them. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it could have been an entire film and they're only introduced in the last third of the film. And I was like, wow, there's an entire indigenous tribe
Hmm.
living in also a magical forest. I was
Yeah.
just gonna think there's a lot of new elements being introduced at the end of the film.
Hmm.
But I think that they handled it all right. Except when Olaf started singing with them. I was like, is this racist? Because he doesn't there's no way he would know what they're singing.
Yeah.
He just like I was like, oh no, no. What do you think? What did you think about this new these new characters, this new indigenous tribe
there the
they
there
introduced?
weren't very many like actual. I don't know if there's anybody like there aren't very many actual characters. There's the leader of this tribe. I forget her name, but she's like the only real character. And then there's the reindeer guy who helps Kristoff propose. I guess that's where he was for the majority of this film, was out practicing his proposal with reindeers. I don't know, but anyways, um, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was they they were like I feel like as a group of people they were essential to this film, but there wasn't any like real characters that came out of it, you know.
Yeah,
And so
they were there to corroborate the fact that Elsa's powers came from a natural elemental source
hmm.
in nature,
Yeah.
I guess. You know what also confused me? Because there's another magical force. So like there's so we have the tribe that lives in in the forest, right? The forest that's outside of Arendelle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's also where the troll rocks are. But then there's another land, Althalo, Altha Howlin, that's
Yeah.
told in the story. The mother, the queen, sings it at the beginning,
Yeah.
and Altha is the only one that like she travels there in that epic wave scene. By the
Mm-hmm.
way, I loved that, like where she
Yeah.
like rides the glass horse through the waves. I thought that was super cool. But
Yeah.
like she gets there, and it's not really a land, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a space in time that just holds memories
Mm-hmm.
encapsulated in ice.
Right.
And it's a very mysterious place, and I'm wondering why it's so far away and what kind of connection it has
Mm-hmm.
to, like, that's where she finds out where the truth is, but it almost feels like it was just kind of thrown in there as a way for her to, I feel like it didn't really need to exist. She could have found all of that in the magical forest by confronting the elements herself,
Mm-hmm.
alongside the new group of people who could have guided her there. Like,
Yeah.
but like, we needed to have a dramatic, near another instance of somebody freezing to
Mm-hmm.
death in this movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I didn't
so
quite get why she froze to death. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but like when she froze, I was like, wait, why is she frozen? What happened?
yeah, Anna said it's because she went too far, but I was like, she went too far, but she did what?
Yeah.
Like, did she wander further into the void space of the memories than she was supposed to?
Mm-hmm.
She was just finding the truth, and the elements told her.
Yeah.
There's another moment too. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Let me know if I'm talking
Yeah.
too
No, go
much.
for it.
Leave that out of the. There's a moment at the beginning that I never quite understood, where she awakens the elements. So she's singing "Into the Unknown," undoubtedly like one of the best songs,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, the only good song in this movie, the only one that I remember. She gets finished singing "Into the Unknown," and she goes, "Into the unknown." She's like free or whatever, and then all of the elements freeze in the air,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly and then like the ground shakes or whatever, and Anna wakes up and she's like, "What have you done?" And Elsa's like, "I followed the voice, and I awoke the elements."
Mm-hmm.
But like, no, is that really what she did though?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to know that?
Mm-hmm.
She awoke and what does that even, like, what does that mean? Like, that whole beginning is still, the way that the elements work is confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes it even more confusing when you find out at the end, spoiler, that there is another missing element, and it's her.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, she is the fifth nature's element
Yeah.
somehow.
It's like ice. Is
Um,
is it ice or is it just like coldness in general?
I
Is
don't
that the
know
element?
because
Yeah.
it's like ice, right? We have water, earth,
Mm-hmm.
fire, and air, right?
Right. Yeah.
But ice is just water,
Right. Yeah.
but it's frozen.
Right. Yeah. That's
But
what.
what maybe she combines air with the water,
Uh,
so she can like create life with her ice. I don't know. Like
yeah.
the rules and regulations of her powers are confusing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I think that's the one flaw in this movie, like plot wise, is that some things are just like they pique my interest, but they're not explained enough for me to feel satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still kind of like, huh? Like it makes sense, but it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Like it's enough to pacify me for now. I'll overlook it for now,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't for the purposes of this review. Um, Also, can we talk about Kristoff really
Yeah.
quickly and his like need to propose to Anna,
Mm-hmm.
but it's clear that Anna has her own thing going on?
Does
I don't
she?
know.
Anna seems like a person who doesn't have anything going on. She's she's so happy to
Mm,
just exist, but she doesn't actually have any. She's not the queen, So she doesn't have any
She's
like
your
real
sister's keep.
responsibility. I don't, or she doesn't appear to
She's your
have.
sister's spoil, right? She's
Yeah.
supposed to keep her sister in line or from going too far, whatever that
Mhm.
means. Um, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm so conflicted by like what the movie is trying to tell me
Yeah.
because like on one hand, I feel bad for Kristoff because his character is pretty simple. He just wants to propose to his girlfriend. On
Mhm.
the other hand, there's so much going on. He should just stop trying because like there's
Yeah.
not going to be a convenient moment like to do it. Like
Mhm.
there's just he tries so hard to make it happen. And then we're introduced to this other guy. I wrote down his name. He's
Mhm.
from the tribe. His name is
Yeah.
Ryder. And I honestly think that Ryder and Kristoff have more chemistry than Anna and Kristoff.
Right. Yeah.
Like they I don't know if you were feeling the fan service
Mhm.
because like fans have been shouting for like Elsa to have some kind of a girlfriend for like ages now.
Mhm.
And I like how Disney toyed with two gay relationships and like never gave them to us.
Mhm.
They toyed with it just enough to be like, oh, they're completing our fan service wishes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, nope, just kidding. We're just, Kristoff is just going to be like best friends with this guy who also understands reindeer,
Mhm.
but they're not actually going to like get together. Even though Kristoff very clearly sings in his 80s power ballad, like, Anna, you're going your own way, feel like you have your own path, and I'm just like here.
Mhm.
Which honestly, I kind of think he's right. Like, I kind of do feel like they're on their own, they're kind of going their own separate ways, and it's proven when he meets this other dude. I'm like, I don't know, maybe you should also be living with. If Elsa doesn't feel like she belongs, and Elsa can hop ship from
Mhm.
her, if she can abdicate the throne to like go and live with the Sami people, then so can you.
Yeah.
Like, and it would be less complicated for you to do it because you're not royalty. So why don't you just do it?
Mhm.
I don't understand.
Yeah. So yeah. So here's the. So Kristoff was, he keeps trying to propose, and they try to make it seem like he's just an epic fail every time. He doesn't know what to say. He's always saying the wrong thing. I really don't think he was saying anything wrong. Like, I was wondering if Anna is messing with him because like he anything he says whenever he's about to propose, like, because he never has that problem talking to Anna about anything else, but as soon as he tries to propose, Anna's like, wait, what are you talking about? What do you mean by this? Or do you think I'm blah, like she just like goes off on him. I'm like, freaking out and like making assumptions and everything. And it's like, but he never does that any other time. Only when he's trying to propose. So is she messing with him? Because he's really like
Yeah.
he hasn't really said anything wrong. And then because of her overreaction, he kind of talks himself. A hole. And then now he's saying stuff wrong. But normally, like, his initial statements, I don't think
I
I
don't
don't think he
think
said
they were
anything
over the
wrong.
top either.
Yeah, I
I really
so
think
I'm
that
like,
she like took his words and she was just like, are you wanting to see someone else?
right?
Like it was
Yeah.
almost just kind of like
Oh,
the only explanation I have for that is maybe she's just like weirdly traumatized from her last relationship with Prince Hans.
yeah.
Like and she just is like worried that he's gonna leave. But like he's given her no reason
Mhm.
to fear for the state of their relationship.
Right.
Like he's given her no reason to think that. So like why? Unless maybe she knows he's gonna propose and she's like afraid
Mhm.
of commitment or
Yeah.
something. And she's like, I don't want to talk about it, let's change the subject. But she also gave us no reason to
Yeah.
believe that. So
Right. Is that something like is she messing with him, or is she serious? Like, what's going on? I don't know. So I mean, Kristoff he was always picking in awkward times to do it anyways, to try to propose. Like I feel like I was like, why don't you like go on a date with her or something and then propose when you're both alone and like that, Why is it like after a night of charades, now I'm going to propose. Like, you know. That's kind of
Ever night of charades when
yeah,
your sister stormed off and something is very clearly wrong. It's
right,
like, hey, I'm gonna get you alone and try to get you to
yeah. But
like
and then
why didn't he propose earlier when stuff was still okay?
yeah, well, that was another question I wrote here. I was like, wait, they're not married yet? I wrote that. I was like, I thought they were married. What the, but apparently it's just like right after the first film, so they didn't have time to get married. Okay. So there was a scene when they're riding in the sleigh and they're just setting off on their journey or whatever, and Olaf and Elsa are asleep in the back of the sleigh, and it's just Anna and Kristoff. And Kristoff was like, "Well, now that we're alone, or whatever, or what was it? I forget what the exact line. I guess,
He was
Or
like, we're
Anna was
alone
like, they're
now.
both asleep, and Anna was like, yeah, Anna's like, so what do you want to do? And she's like going in for a kiss, and I was like, and then he stops her or whatever because he was going to propose, But I was like, wait, what was Anna gonna do? Like, they're asleep. Now what do you want to do? Like gives him the eyes, and she goes in
Mhm.
for a kiss, and I was like, what are they going to do? Like.
On were they moving on a sleigh, by
Yeah,
the
they're moving
way?
on this slate. Like
What a
Kristoff tells Sven to like, okay, keep it steady, and he lets go of the reins, and Sven's gonna take them wherever. So now it's just Anna and Kristoff. They're going, they got some alone time finally, while Elsa and Olaf are asleep in the back of the sleigh. And Anna's like, ooh, what do you have planned? They're going like I was like, what are they going to? Are they going to go for like a full makeout session right there in the sleigh? They're going to start like scoodly pooping, or what are they going to do? Like,
I mean, honestly, I think that could have been a romantic proposal. Like,
yeah,
to be honest,
right.
if he hadn't shut her down
Hmm.
to propose,
Yeah,
like
right.
I don't know. Yeah, that was a moment, and there was also a moment at the very end. Um, I filmed it and I put it on Snapchat because
Hmm.
I was amazed that they put this in the film
Hmm.
where like it was Olaf and Kristoff. They clean up really well at the end
Hmm.
when Anna is getting in her coronation to be queen.
Yeah.
And, and Anna's like, "Oh, you guys dressed up." And Kristoff is like, "You will only get this for 1 hour." And she's like, "It's okay. I like you better in leather." And I
Right.
died. And I remember dying the first time that I watched that.
Hmm.
But it's like, wow.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that is, for me, I mean, maybe I was reading into it, but to me, that is like 100% like an adult. That was a wink to
Hmm.
the parents. 100%.
Right.
You can't. So it's like, Disney, what Shrekness are you trying to pull right now on me?
Right.
With the weird adult dynamic,
Hmm. Yeah.
like
Well, I
taking
feel like you
going
got
on
it.
between.
You have to do that if I whenever there's a kids movie that doesn't do something like that, I feel like it's just a wasted opportunity. Like, cause kids, when you release this in the theater, kids aren't gonna watch it by themselves. Parents aren't gonna let their kids just go to the theater by themselves. This isn't 1980, It's so parents have to go with their kids, and you have to entertain the parents as well. And so you have to have stuff like that to entertain the parents.
True.
It's
But also, isn't that like why you have like Olaf doing his sardonic shtick
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, I think that's also part of it as well. Because that was another thing I wanted to talk about was Olaf, and the things that Olaf says. Because when we watched the SpongeBob movie, you were talking about like the really dark things that they would say, and it's just like, why would you put that in a kids movie, And I was thinking like, well, there's lots of kids movies where they say stuff like that, but it's actually funny. But for the SpongeBob movie, it's not funny. It's just dark and depressing. And but in this movie, there was lots. Olaf said a lot of things like that actually are funny. I think that the punchline landed. There was because I wrote one down. It was when they go into the dark cave. They're separated from Elsa, and yeah, so they go into the cave, and Olaf says, I wrote down the whole thing. He says, Come on, it'll be fun, assuming we don't get stuck here forever and no one ever finds us, and you starve and I give up. Right? That's what he's.
I can't. Yeah, and as much as I found Olaf in the first film really annoying and
Hmm.
grating, I felt like the humor worked.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the movie, it's the first, and this is just my opinion on the first Frozen, I think it's really fluffy.
Hmm.
Um, and some of the songs are like, huh, and
Yeah.
because it's fluffy, the plot's like, huh. But at least like it was a good, fun time. And I feel like because of the lightness of the movie, when Olaf would like pull stunts like that, it
Hmm.
was like hysterical. So
Yeah.
I kind of thought, as much as Olaf is really freaking annoying, some of the jokes are like actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I still feel the same way here, but like he has, let's see, yeah, he has one song though.
Hmm.
It's I wrote it down. When I'm older, I
Yeah.
put, this song is so dark.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel that's where I feel like it hits differently because
Hmm.
this film is really serious.
Hmm.
Like Frozen 2, I think, is like way darker and serious than the first one. So
Hmm.
then when you have this song that's supposed that's like an eye roll about like, when I'm older I'll know everything.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel like it's almost too dark. Like it's like stepping on the childhood hopes and dreams of childhood of
Yeah.
children in there being like, maybe I'll understand this when I'm older. But then it's showing Olaf clearly not getting it.
Yeah.
Like, and like unfortunate things just happening to him in that song. So I'm like, I don't know what the message is anymore. I don't know what it is. Is it that when we grow up, we actually don't know anything? Because that's kind of a sad thought
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's true.
But
It's
yeah.
true. Because like obviously we're grown
Hmm.
adults, say, sort of, but like we're still figuring it out,
Hmm.
and we've accepted that. I'm still figuring it out, but it's something you accept. So I think that's such a weird concept to bring
Hmm.
up in a children's film. I'm
Yeah.
split on it because part of me
I.
is like, it's funny to me as an adult, but
Mhm.
to a child watching this, part of me is like,
Mhm.
we just ruined their hopes and dreams that things will
I
be better.
yeah, that's yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting with like how children react to this one because I mean, obviously, nobody's like nobody. I don't know. It doesn't seem like children are ever like talking about the second movie. It seems like they're hooked
Right?
on the first one still. So and so here's let me go into so the first
Maybe like
movie.
the
So
tone.
yeah, so the first
Yeah,
movie. Remember, I told you that I loved the first movie, but I never watched the second movie. And so the biggest reason why I never watched the second movie is because I I watched the first movie so many times that I realized like all of the things that were bugging other people, and now they started to bug me, and then I'm just like not into it. But because I used to watch, I watched it on repeat. I had the soundtrack. I listened to the soundtrack so much, like I was way into it. But then I got
we
kind of tired of it, and
we stand a 22, 23-year-old guy obsessed with Frozen.
yeah. How
Yes.
old was I when that came out? Yeah, it was probably about
Because
that
he was a
age.
few years older than me, right?
Yeah, so that was probably yeah.
I was
um,
19. I was like 19 when that came out, I think.
yeah. So I was like 21,
So,
22. I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So I was obsessed with Frozen. It sounds kind of weird now thinking about it, but when the second movie came
No
out,
shame.
I
No
wasn't.
shame.
Yeah, I wasn't really into Frozen anymore. Maybe I outgrew it. I don't know. But but also when it came out, there wasn't that much fanfare. I actually didn't even realize it had even come out. Like it was just like all of a sudden it was out. Like I remember seeing the trailers. You know, the trailers came out like a year before, and there was people were it was I see an advertisement pop up every once in a while, but I didn't really pay attention to the release date, and then all of a sudden it was out, and I just wasn't interested in seeing it. None of yeah or. there's a lot of yeah. Well, nobody was like, "Hey, let's go see Frozen 2." So I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I never watched it, and then it came and it went, and it wasn't anything like because I mean you remember Frozen 1. It was Let It Go was playing on the radio. The toys were everywhere, and I feel like the toys were still there. Like even before Frozen 2 came out, that was that like five more than 5 or more years after the first movie. There were still toys in the stores. They're still selling toys from the
Mhm.
first movie. And
But you
so
also had a Broadway musical to hype
yeah,
it up
there's
too,
also a
and
Broadway
shorts.
musical. Yeah, and so there was always Frozen was always around. And so when the second movie came out, it's not like Toy Story where Toy Story comes and then they give it like 8 years, and then it's like 8 years of silence, and then a new Toy Story movie comes out. Oh my goodness! There was always Frozen. Even though there was a 5 or 6 year gap between movies, there was always Frozen. Something's going
Yeah, it's
on.
been big forever.
There's always toys in the store. They're always constant. I'm sure they made more money off of selling toys than they did off of the actual movie itself. Because
Right.
like I don't know if people are still watching Frozen, but people are still buying toys, especially in Asia. It's huge here. Frozen, like yeah,
Really?
especially in China. When I was living in
Okay.
China last year, like it's so popular. Also, when children are learning English, they adopt an English name. And there are so many girls named Anna and Elsa. I know a pair of sisters that are named Anna and Elsa in Taiwan.
Ah!
Yeah, like
It's kind of
it's
amazing.
Elsa is a
I kind of love
very
it.
popular name in Asia right now. So, it
I mean, I'm actually kind of okay with that. I think it's
yeah,
kind of cute.
right.
It bonds them. It
Mhm.
does its job,
Right.
you know.
But yeah, no,
It,
it's a very common name in Asia, Elsa. Like whenever they're learning English, they're like, "Oh, well, I already know Elsa. That's my English name." There you go.
which is
So,
funny because isn't it a German name?
I don't know. But
Elsa's like a German. It's a German fairy tale.
right. I don't. Well,
Oh, or
also it's
maybe
like,
different.
what is an
Maybe not so
English
far.
name? That's what I always felt it was kind of weird to like take an English name because like, what is an English name? Like it seems like
Yeah.
the majority of what we call English names came from the Bible, but it's like, aren't those Hebrew names or whatever? Like, I don't know. Like, they're not even
Yeah.
English, so I don't know. Like, what is so it yeah. So the concept of like an English name is kind of weird. 'Cause, like, I don't know what an English name is, but
Yeah, I don't really either.
oh yeah. So I always thought
Also,
it was weird.
yeah.
Like, well, whatever. But
But yeah, I
yeah.
honestly think I think it has to do, I think this all ties back to marketing, to
Mhm.
be honest.
Yeah.
And the fact that marketing controls reception and like
Mhm.
how we receive movies, how we receive toys and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And the marketing, especially for Disney, has shown to not be canonical, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So like marketing can make its own, like the Disney Princess brand. I actually watched a video about this recently. It was a video about like how come Aurora's dress is two different colors, and it went into all of this like marketing lore about how Disney likes to change, will actually like in its marketing scheme for the
Mhm.
Disney Princess brand will go and make changes needed necessary to differentiate princesses from each other to make
Mhm.
them more marketable to kids, even if it's not tied into the movie.
Yeah.
So I have to wonder if maybe I think marketing has something to do with Frozen 2 in the fact that it was not marketed as heavily as Frozen 1 because the tone is a lot darker. And
Mhm.
I think Frozen 2 is not, because of that, I feel like it's less marketable to kids, which is why you don't see a lot of like the songs going around,
Mhm.
maybe because they have to do with the plot, but they're
Yeah.
not as catchy, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And that's just the fail of marketing in general. Because like I'm telling you, if Into the Unknown should be played on radio stations like
Mhm.
heavily, and maybe I was just not listening to the radio enough to hear it, but
Yeah.
like I was eaten up Into the Unknown when I
Right.
saw that movie the first time. I was like, Into the Unknown. I'm sorry, I like it better than Let It Go.
Yeah, no, I think it was pretty good.
The Unknown.
Especially like when the credits started playing, they had I don't know who was singing it for the credits because I think it was Christina Aguilera or somebody did "Let It Go" for Frozen, right? Because they have like the covers, and I don't know who covered "Into the Unknown" for for this movie, but like during the credits they played the cover song, and it was really good. I was like, oh wow, like now I get it. Like there, like it was
I
actually
wonder
really good.
who. I want to wait. Pause for a second.
Yeah.
Wait. So it's still not telling me. Brendan Urie. There we go. So yeah, I love Brendan Urie.
Mhm.
So I think really good choice for that cover. Um, but yeah, Brendan Urie's the one who did the cover for the end credits
Okay.
for that. So good for him.
Yeah, it was really
They
good.
took some people, right? But yeah, it just like I think it comes back to marketability and
Mhm.
how like marketing could have made those songs more successful, but also inversely, if the songs were never catchy enough to begin with, then marketing wouldn't pick them up.
Mhm.
So it just depends on like who gets to it first,
Mhm.
when are you gonna make those decisions? Uh, you know what? They could have marketed, so there's an 80s power ballad that Christoph sings at the end,
Yeah.
Lost in the Woods. They could have put that on the radio.
Yeah. I actually like that song. So.
I just didn't like the sequence. I was like, I kind of like the song, but like, I don't know, like I kind of skipped I skipped
Mhm.
through it the first time, and
Yeah.
I tried to sit through it again the second time, and I still skipped through it because I could not make it
Mhm.
through because it just felt like not it felt like not necessary. Like I felt like the movie was going on too long, and I was like, I just want to this has to move faster,
Yeah.
which is where I have an issue with pacing. I think with this movie, because honestly, the first 20 minutes are great.
Mhm.
Um, I love the artwork. I like that song that the mom sings. It's like you are somewhere to be found, or some I can't remember what it's called. Um, Something about being found.
Mhm.
But I really liked how they introduced the young versions of the characters, and they have this beautiful like northern lights sort of transition to the title sequence, and then you get that Some Things Never Change song,
Mhm.
which I'm dying because some things about Frozen 2 really hit different in 2020, and that's one of them. Um, the one about I also wrote I think it was When I'm Older
Mhm.
also hits really different in 2020. Uh, because it's like this whole song of like, no matter what happens, I still have you. Like, and I've got Kristoff and Anna too, and Elsa, and everybody's just the same. And there's pumpkins fermenting on the ground and stuff. And they're just like another day of sun. It's like La La Land. But
Mhm.
I just, part of me like watching put irony all over that song. I was watching it, I'm like, oh, they don't even know what's coming.
Right.
It's like, oh God, some things never change. I wrote at the very end, the thing is, some things never change, but most times they need to,
Mhm.
which might just be my cynical point of view. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I kind of
because
think Arendelle should have been drowned.
I feel like the message at the end of the movie was that um what was it? That like, not everything can stay the same, but that's okay. That's kind of the message that they had at the end. They were like, love may never change, everything else will change, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. You know. But
I
that's what it seemed
guess.
like the message was. That's what I got.
Love. I mean, yeah, I do have to give props to Christoph because he kind of said something that I thought, and I wrote this down because I thought it was brilliant. Um, Anna finally apologizes for messing with him with the weird proposal thing. She's like,
Mhm.
I'm so sorry, I was so busy like helping my sister and ruling an entire kingdom, you know. I'm so sorry for ruining your proposal thing. And he's like, that's okay. My love is not fragile.
Mhm.
Which I'm like, thank you for
Yeah.
redeeming yourself with that line. Kristoff is like 10 out of 10 boyfriend material.
Mhm.
Like, my love is not fragile. I do have to say, he's a really good boyfriend. Like, he supports her in this film, definitely more than the last one where he was making fun of her for falling in love with the dude she just met,
Yeah. Well, I
only
mean,
for her
honestly,
to not
wouldn't
fall in
you
love
make
with the
fun
dude
of
she just met.
somebody if they fell in love with somebody they just met?
I mean, he's also a guy she just met, and she falls in love with him.
Well, they went on an adventure together, and then she fell in love with him.
I guess.
Because she didn't fall
Sure.
for him right away. They had to go through this whole thing together.
They had to hate each other first before they.
Yeah, right?
It's a rom-com trope. It's a meet cute.
Yeah.
We like meet cutes. But yeah, that line, "My love is not fragile."
Hmm.
Mm, it got me.
Yeah.
It got me.
Oh.
It's like you're driving the point home. You are heading home. Yeah. I just yes. It's oh, back to Olaf really quick. I
Hmm.
did write something down. I did say that I did enjoy Olaf. I think I don't know, it's hard because I honestly think I enjoyed Olaf more in the first film. So I think I'm taking the opposite stance than you. I kind of enjoyed him more in the first film.
Mm.
Um, Purely, but that's not his fault. Like he's just the same amount of sardonic in this film that he was in the first. It just hits different. It hits
Yeah.
different because the film itself is different. And like there's a moment too when they're all embarking on their road trip all together to go and save the kingdom. And he just is so annoying. Like he won't shut up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go on for too long, but I literally wrote, Olaf, please shut up. Please stop giving the plot away by narrating what's going to happen. Because that's kind of what he's doing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing that he says when he and Anna are about to go into that cave, and he's like, whatever you quoted before.
Yeah.
What did you? Yeah,
But
where he's
yeah,
like,
when he says, it'll be fun, assuming we don't get stuck here forever and no one ever finds us, and you starve and I give up.
I mean, but but that's kind of what happened. Like he gave away a plot point with a joke
Hmm.
because they literally get stuck down there. He dies. He
Hmm.
gives up and dies. Once he realizes that he's dying because Elsa died,
Hmm.
and then Anna sort of gets close to giving up and could very easily just get lost in there and starve and dies.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm it's because I think that's what I like about Olaf in this movie is that he does give he does give away crucial plot points or crucial information or advice and whatever, but it's all in the forms of offhand comments because he talks a lot, so most of the stuff he says is complete nonsense. But every once in a while, there's something in that nonsense that is crucial to the story, but you just kind of brush it off, and then it comes back. Like when he starts saying when he starts stating random facts, where he talks about how turtles can breathe through their butts. And, like that's complete nonsense. But then he also says, did you know that water has memories? And you assume that that's the same nonsense. But it turns out that is very crucial to the entire movie. The entire movie is based
yeah,
on that one fact that water has memories. And I feel like it's an interesting way to introduce that concept because that is, it's probably the most important thing to know when watching this movie is that water has memories, and it's used over and over and over again, and they use it kind of as a tool to like uh to be able to uncover the past, you know,
Yeah.
to find
I
out what
wonder where this
happened to their
concept came from. Like the
yeah.
fact, like the water has memories.
Hmm.
Is that some kind of, I have to wonder if that's some kind of a spiritual, natural thing that water somehow maintains that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I do think
maybe,
I
yeah,
agree with you. I think it's
'cause
really interesting
yeah,
that you brought it up.
and it's interesting that that came from Olaf too, you know. But they needed to give that information somehow. You know, that somebody had to say it, but who was going to say it? And it's like, well, let's just give that
The only
line to
person who
Olaf,
spews random facts is Olaf, so.
right? Yeah. So we'll get, and so I think it's interesting that Olaf did it, but I think because there's a lot of exposition in this film, especially at the very, very beginning. The first scene is Anna and Elsa as kids, and their dad is telling them the story of the Mystic Forest, and that is just a huge exposition scene, you know, and it's actually kind of reminiscent of the first movie where they have another huge exposition scene at the beginning of that one as well. But uh, yeah, but there's a lot of that, and it seems like almost every character has a scene where they spew out tons of exposition, you know. But it's interesting that Olaf's exposition is in the form of some offhand comment that could easily be ignored, you know, until it's
Mhm.
super relevant.
He does spew exposition though in that long scene. Like he literally recaps the events from the first film, and the new guard is like, "What? No way! Not Elsa! She died? What?"
Yeah,
I actually really liked that. I thought that was
I,
hilarious.
I, I thought I thought that scene it was the perfect length because that scene could have been too long. He could have been doing it for like 10 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, I'm tired. But like, I think it was just the perfect length to
Hmm.
catch everybody up.
Right. He had some nice foils there too, with the guard kind of showing a little more of a playful side,
Hmm.
you know, and then the tribal leader kind of standing behind him, like, "Why is the snowman talking?
Yeah.
So what's that?" Also, how come nobody questions anything? Also, nobody questions. I'm surprised that the guards weren't like, "Why did these random people just emerge from the shadows? Why is there a snowman talking?"
Hmm.
Because we had the chance to discover that bit
Hmm.
in the first film, where
Yeah.
everybody was like, "What?
Yeah.
This
Well,
is weird." Maybe it's not surprising to them anymore.
they did have a reaction to Olaf, an initial reaction, and then Olaf brushed it off by becoming completely oblivious to what they are reacting to because they see Olaf and like what like they like have that reaction like this moving talking snowman what you know and Olaf is you know he realizes everybody's looking at him and he's like oh I'm sorry I find clothes restrictive you know that's and just brushes it out so there is an initial reaction to Olaf being a sentient snowman you know but
Yeah.
he brushes it off with another stupid offhand comment, you know. But
I would have loved
I,
if he even just was like, "Oh, I'm sentient,"
yeah,
and that's it. Like that's all he says. "Oh, don't worry, I'm just sentient."
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think what he, I don't know.
With a
I
frame,
think what he said was
his frame
funny
on his face.
too. But
Um, where do you
yeah,
think all those guards were for 6 years? Because they're in like an alternate
yeah. Well,
universe.
actually, they were in there for 34 years. I actually looked it up. It was 34 years. Because remember, that was his father was there, and then yeah, yeah, 34 years. Because if you think about it, they were there while their father was a child. And then his father, after escaping, grew up, became the king, and had kids, and now his kids are growing up. So it's 34 years. You
That must
know.
be so. Can you
And so,
imagine how confusing that would
right.
be
So that's why
for everybody? Like three generations, like two generations of people have come
yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering. It's
in the
like,
time.
did they, I don't think they aged at all in those 35 years, right? It's all just become like static. And so, like, so what were they doing
Yeah.
for 35 years? Obviously, they haven't really been fighting, otherwise, they would have killed each other off by then.
Wait,
So,
also, how are they able to have children then? If they never.
did they have children?
Yeah, that's the guard rider and the girl that are introduced. as like the best friends of Kristoff, the new best tribal best friends of
Oh, he's
yeah. He's like, we wouldn't know. Some of us have been born. Some of us were born in here,
uh
and we've never seen the sun or something like that.
hmm,
um, so like there's
yeah.
so much like I feel like each one of these plot points could have been its own movie. Like I
Mm-hmm.
almost kind of wish that they had a Frozen. Can we have like a Frozen TV show would actually be interesting to explore the origins of all this because it's like this movie is jam packed with
Yeah. It turns out there's
various
yeah.
subplots. It's like there's indigenous people on this land.
Mm-hmm.
There's Alosahalan over here. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's also a magical forest that stops time. Also, troll rocks.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the film, but they still do nothing.
Yeah. Well, it turns out
We
there's
still
a
don't know anything
ton
about
of
them.
magical stuff in a land where nobody believes in magic.
Yeah,
Like before Elsa came along, nobody thought magic was real, and all of a sudden, now we find out that this little kingdom is actually filled with magical villages and places, and it's like yeah, filled with magic. It's like
I call bull,
all of
by
a
the way, that
sudden,
nobody knew that magic didn't exist. Because
yeah,
at the very beginning, the dad is like, oh, like, I've actually been to a magical forest. And the mom is like, are we sure that we should tell them this? And he's like, yeah, it's time they know because apparently everybody else does except for them because they're young.
yeah. Well,
If a
and
magical forest exists for people to not go into it, then they
hmm
have to know about it to not go in, right?
right,
Like,
yeah. Well, also it's very close to the to their kingdom, right? Like it's very close to the actual city that they live in because
mhm,
it's like right around. It's like just on the other side of the mountain. So I'm sure
right?
people. That's what it seemed like geographic.
Maybe
Like
they know it's a forest, but they don't know it's magical.
I mean,
Like,
because it's close enough to where if the dam breaks, then the entire city's gone, right? And so and it didn't take very long for the water to get from the dam to the city, right? So it's like right over there. It's like right around the corner. So it's
it's
it's not
right,
very far.
right there.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the troll rocks only come out when they want to. If like maybe the magical
Yeah.
elements are just not present when people go in there normally. Because
Maybe.
like you gotta find food from somewhere.
Mhm.
Also, how did you have to wonder if the other villagers knew about the dam and it was just the princesses that didn't know that the dam existed. Because like that was a thing that was started years and years ago. And like surely there are like people who are older in that village who must know about this. Like it's just
Mhm.
amazing that there are some
Yeah. Well,
things
like who built the
in this movie
dam?
that existed for so long and nobody knows about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like some of the villagers must have built the dam, right? Because it's a lot of manual labor to build the dam. It can't just be just a secret military operation. You've got to hire some civilians to build the dam as well. So, like, there's got to be other people who've been there. I don't know. Well, also another thing is when the father is telling Elsa and Anna about the Mystic Forest and all this stuff, it's when they're little kids, and it doesn't seem like it's really brought up until it's important in this movie, which is years and years later. And then like all of a sudden, uh, Elsa she has this whole into the unknown song. She hears this voice, and for some reason she just knows it's coming from the Mystic Forest. Like, even though she hasn't even thought about it since she was a child, like, she just knows it's got to be. I'm like, wait, how do you know? And then, like, she just it's like all of a sudden she
Yeah.
just knows everything. And I'm like, wait, what?
I'm
So,
really convinced that I'm really convinced that Elsa is just like an all-powerful being. I
yeah.
mean, she is like the fifth nature's fifth element
Mm-hmm.
is in a person. Like she
Right.
is the personification of an unnatural being.
Mm-hmm.
Is she even human? I don't know, man. Yeah, she does just seem to know a lot.
Right.
She just has a hunch. She just has a feeling. And like I honestly think that Anna is kind of like right in that respect. That like yeah, you should definitely like not be making impulsive decisions just because you're curious and because you have a hunch, because
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely like not safe. Also, I do agree with Elsa that um, it is not safe for Anna. Like that journey is 100% not safe for anybody to go on. And if we've all learned that from the first film, then that wouldn't be happening again. Not that I think that Anna isn't capable of going on the journey. It's just that like it's not responsible. Like somebody has to be there to like run the kingdom.
Yeah.
Like if something happens, and Elsa is very clearly capable of handling herself with her powers. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, unless there was some kind of a unless it was a dark force, in which case like that would make sense. And I think I put that somewhere in my notes. I kept making like plot edits, and I kept being like, what if this story was something else? I kept putting, I said, what if Elsa went on this journey alone? What if this was a standalone Elsa film? Because then we wouldn't have so many weird complications and things like interfering with us figuring out the origin of all of this. And I put, what if when Elsa found Holland, the magic place that is
Yeah.
not the forest, but is still a forest, the magical land, when she got there, what if she found something evil inside
Mm-hmm.
that like tried to change her, which would make Anna's role in Elsa's journey a little more prevalent because they'd be each other's foils. Like Elsa would really need Anna to keep her in check, and Anna needs Elsa to, I don't know, she just needs her sister. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, like I kept coming up with alternate plot lines. I also put down, I wish that this movie was a sequel about Kristoff and how he got to know the Troll Rocks
Mm-hmm.
and how he went from being like an orphan with a reindeer in the very first film to to now. Like there could be spin-offs. I'd be interested in seeing a movie based off of that. You
Yeah.
know, you could introduce new fun characters. Um, However, that wouldn't really work out because you'd have to say this because those characters aren't present in the current movies. So if you wrote a prequel and like in Kristoff, it would have to align with the current movies. Does that make sense? So like if you wrote that like Kristoff was like Tarzan, you know, if he was Tarzan and he met like a motherly rock figure that took him in. The motherly rock figure wouldn't like exist in the other films,
Mm-hmm.
so you would have to find a way to kill her off, or it wouldn't make sense canonically. But also, Disney has the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They can do stuff that's not canonical, and it doesn't necessarily have to make sense because the only people that will think about it hard enough is me.
Right.
Uh, so yeah,
Yeah. So that's
I that's Frozen 2.
yeah. There's Frozen 2. So
I Do you have
I,
anything else you want to
not really. I don't know. I think well. So what do you? Let's see. So do you like Frozen 2?
I It's so divisive. The only time I've used the word divisive is when I've talked about Ari Aster films. And I'm not saying Frozen 2 is an Ari Aster film, but it is divisive because like I think it's better than Frozen 1
Mm-hmm.
plot wise, but there's not like enough memorable things about it. Like you know when you're a kid and you're obsessed with something, you'll like go back in your DVD and you'll go back to the scene selector and
Mm-hmm.
you'll go back and rewatch certain scenes again and again. I feel like with Frozen 1 I would have done that. Frozen 2 though, I don't know if I would go back and watch certain sequences over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like I feel like it aged with the viewers well, with the serious nature of it. So I have to give it points.
Yeah.
But also, like, in terms of like a lighthearted family Disney film,
Mhm.
it also didn't quite give me that either. I don't know, it's just a mixed bag.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a 5.5 out of 10. It depends on what you're in the mood for,
Yeah.
I think.
And I was surprised at how much I liked it. It's a completely different movie than what I thought it was because of the first movie's commercial success and the amount of money that Disney was able to make off of royalties and licenses and sales and T-shirts and music and Broadway and this the first movie made so much money, and I don't even know if it's possible to even calculate how much money
It's
of
still making money.
because it's still making money, and like
Yeah.
yeah, and so I I'm I'm surprised that the second movie didn't come out sooner, but also I'm surprised that the second movie isn't as commercializable. There's no new characters to market. Like even if I'm sure if I looked if I went to the store and looked at the toy aisle and looked at Frozen 2 toys, they would be the same as Frozen 1 toys. You have Kristoff,
Wait,
Sven, Anna, Elsa. Like, there's no new characters to
the
commercialize.
outfit's changed.
The outfits change, that's about it. But there's no
Wait,
new
what about the
characters.
little fire demon thingy?
Oh,
The pink fire
oh,
creature?
there is a fire demon. I guess there is that thing. He's not. I don't know if he's really that much of a character. He's a cute little thing that they put in the movie, but he's not much of a character. He doesn't do
Yeah.
much. You don't. He doesn't get his moment. It's not like. It's not like Rapunzel's chameleon. He gets his moments. This little fire demon thing didn't really get his moment. So,
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's what I'm surprised. It's not commercializable. It seems like it's targeted towards an older audience, probably the original audience who has matured more, I feel like. And so they marketed towards the original audience who watched the first one. And now that
Yeah.
they're older, now they made a more mature movie for them. And so, yeah, I'm really surprised that the kind of movie that they decided to make, instead of trying to expand on the money making machine that was Frozen, they decided to just tell a good story instead. Which
Yeah.
I'm surprised. So
It has plot holes and inconsistencies, but it's
yeah.
like at its core I get what they're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah. So
what would you give it?
I'd probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think. Yeah. I it's a good movie. It's perfectly watchable.
Yeah,
So
it's watchable.
yeah.
It's not infuriating, and it doesn't have
Mhm.
songs like he's a bit of a fixer-upper, he's got a couple of flaws. Like, you don't have to sit.
I like that song,
You don't
but
have to do
okay.
that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just I never hear.
I know
Kids
the rock
actually,
trolls aren't very
none of them sing
popular.
that song.
I know the rock trolls aren't very popular, but I like them. I don't know.
I
Okay.
like the rock trolls. I just don't like their songs.
Yeah. They only got one song.
I know.
Okay.
But do you hear any kids singing like he's a bit of a fixer-upper?
Nope, it was just me, and I wasn't the kid at the time, so
Oh,
just me by
hurting.
myself, and everybody telling me to shut up. It's like, yeah. So there's Frozen 2. I guess we there we go. Yay!
Yay! Kevin, now that we've given our ratings for Frozen 2, what is your next Cinepick for me?
All right, my Cinepick for you, Michaela, is the 2001 anime remake of the 1928 classic silent film Metropolis. Yeah, there we go.
I love
So,
Metropolis. I've seen the original one, so.
yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, since we've both seen the original, it'll be interesting to see what you think of the anime version.
So thank you so much for watching, all you Cinepickers. This has been Kevin and Michaela reviewing Frozen 2. Make sure to like or hit that subscribe button down below. And make sure to comment below as well if you have any suggestions for Cine-Picks that we should watch next.
Yay.
Yay!
Goodbye.
All right, bye!